I continued having sex with Dues the monster princess in reverse cowgirl position, and she didn't want to stop having sex with me, and then I finally came in her vagina, and then I put it in her butthole, and then I quickly came in her butthole, and then she sucked my member ravenously, and then I came instantly, and I had another massive orgasm, and then Mosquito Girl said it's my turn now, and then I started having sex with Mosquito Girl, and she was now giving me oral pleasure and sucking my member ravenously and giving me deep throat, and I came inside her mouth many times, and she constantly drank my semen like cola or water, and then she instinctively got on top of me and she rode my member ravenously in the reverse cowgirl position, and I did her in that position for about 2 hours, and then I switched positions to the spooning side position, and then I switched to missionary, then finally I started massaging her entire beautiful body in the big dripper doggy style position, and then I came inside her vagina again so much so that she was now full and she went cross-eyed, and then Mosquito passed out because she had never been so full, and then I found out that Psychos and Fubuki and Tatsumaki were secretly watching us the whole time, and they all said now it's our turn husband, and then I did them all the same way I did the monster women, except they had to rest and eat. The monster women didn't really have to, and I am pretty sure I knocked all my wives up, meaning they are all pregnant, and then eventually Psychos, Fubuki and Tatsumaki all went into the kitchen and started talking to each other. As it turns out, Psychos and Fubuki are old friend, along with Tatsumaki, and Psychos has information about the Monster Association and she knows where to find them, but I'll get to that later. And I said, Orochi, your ass is mine, and then I walked into the kitchen where the Espers were standing and I said, hello girls, are you okay? And they all smiled and said, well, we feel great thanks to you, and I said, all of you are beautiful, and then I walked up to Tatsumaki and I kissed her on the forehead and then the lips, and she blushed, and then I rubbed the top of her head and I smiled warmly, and all of them blushed, and then Tatsumaki said, I'm going to cook you something, and then Tatsumaki cooked something like a professional chef, and she cleaned up everything, and she even cleaned my apartment with the help of her powers, and I said, wow, thanks darling, and I said, this food is delicious, are you a chef? And Tatsumaki said, yes, I learned everything about how to be a chef and a great wife. And then Fubuki got angry, and so did Psychos, and they decided to learn everything about how to be a great housewife. Although they already knew a lot, they didn't know how to cook or clean very well, so they decided to learn just to satisfy me more. After they both saw how happy Tatsumaki just made me by cooking and cleaning for me, and I kissed Tatsumaki and I said, thanks sweetheart, I love you, and I smiled at Tatsu warmly and I held her in my arms and I kissed her passionately and repeatedly on the cheeks, and she started giggling and smiling, and she said that tickles, and I made sure that I was always in my human form around them, but my monster wives don't mind my beast form at all. And then Psychos told me about Mycoplasma and where to find her, and I said interesting, and then I decided to teleport there in front of Mycoplasma in my beautiful and handsome human form, and she blushed and said nervously, who are you? And since we were all alone in a private building, she got very aroused and she said, what are you doing here? And I said, I think you know why I'm here, gorgeous, because I want to mate with you and I can smell that you want me to. And she started sweating passionately and she asked me, how do you know that? And I said, because I'm half monster and half human, I'm a hybrid, and my sexual pheromones are very strong thanks to my dominant nature as a lion. And I turned my eyes into glowing yellow cat eyes, and then Mycoplasma walked up to me and she started ripping my clothes off while I was standing there, and then she exposed my lower body and she started sucking my erect member ravenously, and then I came inside her mouth instantly, and then I ripped her clothes off, exposing her beautiful pale naked body, and I started giving her great oral pleasure, and she came instantly in my mouth, and then I continued having sex with her in the doggy style position, and then I did her in the missionary position, and then she did me in the reverse cowgirl position, and then the regular cowgirl position, and then I switched to the side spooning position, and then I started massaging her entire body in the big dripper doggy style position, and she loved it, and then my body started to react, and then I started to ejaculate in her vagina and then her mouth, and then I came all over her big boobs, and she ate all my cum on her boobs, and then I continued having sex with her, and I said I don't want to stop.